All right, so with this second class of mares, what we're going to start off with is we will start with the first three terms that we learned and how to evaluate these. We'll take that into consideration with these two mares. We'll start tallying which one is kind of building up points here, and those again being top line, heart girth, and then femininity within our facial region here. Next, after we kind of tally up who wins in those races, we will look at chest definition and size, as well as hock angulation and the neck placement as well. And so the idea here is as you guys are building more vocab and more things to look at within these horses, it's sort of giving you more ammunition to either compliment these horses or criticize them. Now, those first three can get you pretty far that we talked about, that top line, heart girth, and so on, because normally you will have a class of 4, and you will have to first kind of decide which two horses are your top pair, so the best two, and your bottom pair, which would be the worst. And then after that point, that's when you kind of start to nitpick about all these extra things if you need it. Sometimes you don't. Sometimes it's fairly obvious which one's your first and which one's your last. But it's always best to have a little bit of ammunition in your pocket if you need to look for this extra stuff. All right, so let's get started here. So I'm going to mark on a piece of paper as I start to look at these guys, and I'm going to make tallies on which one wins depending on what we're looking at. So let's say first we are evaluating our top line. So when we look at 1 and 2 here, we're going to draw that line right on top of our withers here at the base of the neck on the top, down behind the front legs here, across to where their hip and their gaskin kind of ties in here in the rear, and then back up to where their pins are. Okay, and so we really want a trapezoid shape here, and it kind of looks uniform. However, the one thing I would look at is you can see where the rear of their top line kind of ties in. It looks fairly close to this bottom line here. Okay, if we draw a straight line down. Now we take a look at 2. Okay, do kind of the same thing. I would say we're fairly close as well. The next thing we can do, right, is if we think we can't really make a good judgment call off of this, what we do is we take this and then we copy paste it in our heads. So imagine you'd have this midsection, this square, cut out of the horse. We place it over here. And so we have it's starting here and over. And this section should be as close as possible to the length and size of these guys as well. So if we take this, boom, slap it over here. Okay, we're going to do the same thing. So take this section over here and slap it to the rear third. And I'm seeing some issues here. So if you were to imagine this whole section placed over their rump section over here, it would kind of stretch all the way out to here, I'd say. Okay, give or take. Okay, so notice how our midsection is much longer than our rear third. Now, if we take that same concept and we go down to horse 2, again, we're going to find our trapezoid, our midsection here, our mid third. Okay, copy paste that. Okay, and it's a little closer. I'd say you end up maybe around here. So here versus here makes a pretty big difference, right? So when we're talking about top line, and it's hard to tell sometimes, you can take it and see how easily you can divide that into thirds. And that will tell you how balanced that horse is, and then kind of help you decide which one has a shorter top line. In this case, 2 would win. So 2 would have a shorter top line up here. So I'm going to mark 1 tally for 2. Moving on, we talk about heart girth. So again, we're going to start at the withers here. And we're going to draw a line, imaginary line, all the way down to their heart, okay, on the front of their chest here. We're going to draw this line and kind of compare the lengths here between this one and here. I can already kind of tell. You can see how her chest kind of pops out a little more. She's a little more deeper, a little more filled out here. So I can notice that she has a much deeper heart girth. You know, that other trick I showed you is we can take this length, okay, and imagine if we took that length and copied it down here. So right at their shoulder, we take that length and measure it down here, you know, give or take. We want that length to be the same, if not longer, than their legs, from their hoofs up to their shoulders. Okay? Take that same proportion up here and draw it down here. I would say we get a little bit closer with 2 than we do with 1. One sits a little high. I can tell, she seems a little, we talked previously too about how level we want our our hips and then our shoulders too. I can kind of see a little bit of a decline, not much compared to 2 here. But again, we're focused on heart length, right? So I would say in that instance, 2 would win. So I'm going to mark another tally for 2. Right now, it's 0 to 2. So last thing, again, we're going to look for femininity, and we're looking for soft, small, and smooth features within our face, okay? We don't want any large jaws or like sharp angles or like really, really sharp definition within our face region as well. And so right off the bat, I can kind of tell 2 has a really, really soft jaw, very small in comparison to 1. 1's chunky. It's so when it comes to femininity and which class we're looking for, in the case of like colts or anything like that, if we're looking at a male horse, I would say this is ideal, right? But again, we're looking at mares, right? So when it comes to the sex of the animal, we care about the facial features and what we're going to see there. So when it comes to facial femininity, just off of these 2 pictures, I would say 2 wins any day. So I'm going to mark another tally. Right now, we're 0 to 3, and we really haven't even talked about chest definition and any of this new stuff, right? So right now, it's pretty clear that 2 wins over 1. Now, we're going to take a look at chest definition. The best place to look at this is going to be from the front view. And so what I'm looking at, here's 1 on my left, 2 on my right, is I am looking for essentially like their pec muscles up here in the front between their legs. I want to see a really good divot up here and a large width between their shoulders. All right. Now, in a really sharp V right in this section. So between the bottom of their chest right here down to where it ties into their legs, I want to see a really, really sharp V. The sharper that V, the better the chest. So you can see here, they've got more of an arc. Okay. There's really no definition in 1. And I hate to dog on her too much, but it's just not good. Right. So chest definition in this instance, you guys can see her pec muscles are pretty flat compared to the size here, okay, and her V of definition that she's got there. So mark another tally for 2. We're at 0 to 4. Next, we look at Hock angulation. Okay, this is going to be best seen from the side view. And where we start with this, okay, the hock is going to be this section right here to the rear third of the horse. And what we're going to do is we're going to start a line from the very back end of their rump, and we're going to draw a line straight down from this base of their rump straight down. And what we're looking for is how close is this hock, this angle of this hock to this line. Okay, we want it close. We don't want it too close. And this is where it can get a little tricky. And you really just have to go off of comparison between these horses. So in this instance, right, we're going to draw a line down. Okay, we really like that line to at least touch the base of that hock and have a little bit of angle forward. Not too much, though. Now, a good example of where we can go wrong is take a mental picture of how far we are with number 1 here. And I'm going to scroll down. Okay, we're going to go to the base of her rump again and go down. And notice how much further we are. I would say we're a good, like probably 1/3 of a foot, if that, further forward, meaning she's a little forward set when it comes to her hock angulation. And so this would be one thing that would be, I could say, against number 2. So eventually when you guys have to build your own reasons and argue your viewpoints here, this would be a really good negative to kind of diss on 2 if you needed it, right? 2 is great, amazing in a lot of different areas, not in her hock angulation. So we want a little bit of angle, not all the way forward like this. You can get 2 straight. And so if we started the pin here and it's just like I'm hidden in the middle of this line right here with their hock, and their hock is like spread way back here, then we got issues as well. So we want a happy medium where we can draw a line straight down and we have a slight angle forward. All right. Then neck placements, and specifically what they call tying in is where that neck is going to, at the very base of it, so on the front of the horse right here, we're looking at how set or where the base of their neck sets. And so usually the higher the better. And so you can see if we draw a line here and we're looking at that contact point to where their neck ties into their shoulder and their chest down here. If it sags quite a bit, so if it sets in really, really low, you can see how she's like mid-shoulder here. That's not great. If we look at number 2 and the base of her neck and where it ties in, you can see she's almost on top of her shoulder. That is ideal, right? And so the higher the shoulder set, or excuse me, the higher the neck placement set, the better. And you can kind of tell if you can't get quite close to these horses and stuff while you're judging them, you can also look at the length of their chest from the side view. So take a mental picture of number 2 here. You can see how tall her chest is and it extends upward. And this one is fairly short, kind of sags down. And so that is another telltale. So again, we're going to mark another tally for 2. Right now, we have 1 score or 1 tally for number 1. And then we have 5 tallies for number 2. And of course, in this class, 2 would win over 1. Okay. So just as a quick review, chest definition, we can see that most easily from the front view. We're looking for a sharp V cut up here in the front between the chests here. Good definition between their pec muscles here. If it's a little too flat like this, or if it just arches, that is a telltale sign of a negative or a negative point here that you could take off of number 1. The other thing we talked about is Hock angulation. So again, we start from the very back of their rump here, draw a straight line down, and we would like a little bit of angle, okay? Not this much. Not this much. Most of the time you can see a pretty good difference in between different classes and stuff as you guys look at the mares and the colts and everything in between. So make sure you save those in your back pocket as you look through those different classes, as well as this neck placement, right? And so we said the higher the neck, the better, okay? Notice 2 ties into her shoulder and her chest right about the top of her shoulder here. You can see that. And then if we look at 1, it kind of sags down to the bottom here. And she's got a really low tie-in when it comes to her neck. Okay.